Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Doom Patrol Season 2, Episode 2. It's called Tyme Patrol. That's spelled with a Y, just in case there was any confusion. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This one kind of dives into a bit more of what we were getting last episode. We get a little bit more of the context. For Dorothy, we get Niles' basically his side of the flashback, essentially. We get to see the final imaginary friend, as it were.
Yes. Yeah.
Pretty creepy. A lot of candles, kind of ties in with the candle motif. Which, I'll be honest, I was going to say, I've been playing a lot of Monster Train, and one of the factions in that game are all like wax and candle based, and it really made me think of that. It was...
Yeah, I think the name of this one is the candle maker, so makes sense. I thought the effects on this actually looked really good, like some of the best looking design in the show.
That was good stuff, because there was a better look at the mirror one as well. When Jane's waking up, and the mirror characters kind of like, you know.
Yeah, I haven't caught the name of that one yet. I know the spider is Herschel.
Herschel, yes. Who tells a terrible joke this episode.
Yes.
So terrible not joke. So no, the episode kind of advances that stuff, and it's funny because I was sort of thinking for the first half of the episode, I was like, oh, this is not bad, this is solid enough, but it doesn't feel like it's... I feel like season 1 was really good at each episode feeling really distinct, and I wasn't necessarily getting that from the first half of this episode, and the episode 1 had that, because episode 1 was the fun size one, right? And and then we got to the Tyme stuff, and we got to going after the terrible Dr. Tyme, and
some 80s rollerblading disco.
I mean, it says it's 1980, and it makes sense that it actually feels more 70s. It just happens to be 1980, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's still holdover from the disco era.
Yeah. It's it's just they've not fully transitioned into the 80s yet. So yes, and he's got a clock for a head. In fact, Cliff turning to Rita, because Rita, of course, wants to save Niles. The idea that she wants to give Niles, but because they learn from Dorothy. Dorothy's talking to Rita at breakfast. She wants to learn how to make food, and Rita's kind of helping. In fact, my biggest laugh of the episode, honestly, is Cliff's entrance into this scene, where they're talking about. They keep saying, "Oh, this is true. This wasn't true," and Jane's trying to talk to her about, because Jane heard this from the mirror, woman, when she woke up, and Rita's getting really frustrated. She's like, "God, what is or isn't true? Someone tell me." And then when they eventually talks, bring up, is the chief dying? Cliff walks in and she says, "Cliff, did you hear about this chief dying?" Like, "Yeah, I did. Karma's a bitch. Let that be a lesson to you, kid." And then just Dorothy gets really upset. I was cackling with laughter at that.
That was very good. Not my favourite moment of the episode, or the funniest. The other one is also a Cliff moment, unsurprisingly.
Is it the middle finger as he's going through the portal?
No, although also good. It's the reverse psychology bit.
Oh yes, where Cliff's a bit of an idiot, because even though he's not trying to do reverse psychology, there's still no reason for him to want it. It's not like this is something that's going to piss him off in the long run. They're still going to ultimately help the chief. He's just like, in the moment, yes, the chief doesn't want us to do this, so I'm going to do it.
It's like, is this reverse psychology? No. Are you sure? Yes. Then I'm in. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so we actually get confirmation of some of the stuff we're talking about last episode. The rock around his neck, that was what gave him his immortality. Although it wasn't permanent, and that's why he was doing everything with all the other characters. He was trying to find through them other ways to become permanently eternal.
Yes. I think the key here is they use the word longevity,
yes.
Which I think is a subtle difference, but it is enough of a difference that I thought it was effective to just use that word instead.
And his goal seems to be to basically stick around long enough so he's there to actually be a father to Dorothy, who does seem to be aging, but just very, very, very slowly.
Yes, because he mentions in some of the flashbacky stuff that we get at the start, that she's with him for like 2 years and has barely aged a day.
Yeah, so if we go 1 days, 2 years, that's 700... Hold on.
I'm not going to help you here.
The math made sense for a second in my head. I just have to go back and do it again. Hold on. Right. So if 1 day of her life is actually 2 years in real time, then a year in her life would be 700 years?
Give or take, yes.
Yes, I was right.
Yes, you were right.
That's what I was going with, yes. Okay. That's a lot of time for 1 year, which means that, she's, let's say she lives to a healthy age of 85 or something like that. That's a lot of
It is, and she's about, what, 10 maybe at the minute?
Yeah, and I think they mentioned I want to say someone says she's a turn of 11, because Jane makes a crack about her being this preteen bullshit or something like that.
Maybe, yeah.
So sounds a bit. She does feel a little bit less mature for 11, but that might also be because of she was in a cage and
then spent years in Danny the Street.
Danny the Street, who used to be Danny the Alleyway, back in Danny's youth, just an alleyway. So they're waiting for Danny to grow into something that isn't a brick. That show's so weird.
Yes, and we should mention it does seem to be that she is actually his daughter.
Yes,
because I think we'd forgotten a little bit of some of the stuff from season 1.
No, as soon as he mentioned the woman in the cave and the beast kind of being reminiscent of her, I was like, oh, okay, actually that's actually lines up now that it is his daughter.
Yeah.
So that stuff that's pretty interesting. Although I kind of like how Cliff points out the bullshit here, like the hypocrisy where. We get some of the footage again of him watching the old interviews and asking the chief, because all this flashback at the start is Chief telling this to Robot Man, to Cliff, and he's like, you're a hypocritical dickhead, because this is all worth saving your daughter and being there for your daughter, but my family was expendable. Like, he points this out. So Cliff is, while he's very funny in how he does it, he's actually very justly pissed off at the chief all episode. You can't really argue with him. It's delightful stuff.
And to his somewhat credit, Niles doesn't really argue with him. He's kind of like,
no, he doesn't.
Yeah, I was a bit of a dick.
Yes, and this goes again about the idea of him maybe looking for, retribution or not retribution. Sorry,
redemption.
Redemption. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. That makes sense as an arc, and maybe in doing so he's basically created a team of, if not immortal, certainly, long-lasting, a set of parents for Dorothy that might look after her if he does croak this year.
Yeah, which is kind of what Rita gets onto pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They ask him and confront him about it, and he kind of says what we says, like, well, he is dying technically, but only in the sense that we're all dying. Like, I would say technically I'm 134, but I mean, really, I'm still in my early 60s here, like whatever.
Yeah, but you've got like all of these long-lived people. Be like, oh my god, he could drop dead at any moment.
We'll have to put him in diapers before the end of the
Rita
week.
just being like, oh, the grey hairs are showing.
The grey hairs were always showing.
I know.
It's good. So no, it's funny because it's when they go into the time vortex, and there's a joke, of course, that they all have to admit what they were doing in like whatever time period in 1980. Although I have to question why Rita and Jane remembered that that Rita was knitting and Jane was sleeping. Like, you asked me what I was doing a week ago at a specific time, I couldn't tell you.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they were in this house for decades at a time.
That would all blend together. That'd be even harder to remember.
No, but here, bear with me.
Okay.
This is what they did every night.
Oh, sure.
Because it was around whatever time, like midnight or something stupid.
Yeah.
And Rita was like, yeah, I was knitting every night at that time. And, Jane was like, I was probably sleeping. Good guess.
If anything, I buy that Cliff would remember banging someone in a closet. Because at least that feels notable enough.
And it was just after he'd won a race, so it was like, okay, there's a specific reason to pin that date in your memory.
That said, previous flashbacks with Cliff do imply that he did that a lot in closets, so I mean...
Which is why I feel like the race is maybe what means he can remember that date, and then he's like, what did I do after that race?
But they go. But it was when they go to the disco, or the what do we call it? The roller disco.
Roller disco, yeah.
I don't know. This whole skating around in a circle listening to music's a very American thing. I only see it in TV shows and movies.
Yeah, I don't think it ever made its way over here even at the time.
Yeah. I don't know how much of a thing it is in it now. Maybe there's a couple of retro places that do it out of like, hey, kind of niche, right?
I'm sure there is, yeah.
We'll do a little throwback. But it's not the thing it was, right? It's not like every town has one now, I assume. Everyone's going to start posting their favourite roller discos. No, I go every weekend. What are you talking about? Maybe not right now, because, quarantines and whatnot. But... Anyway, so it was at this point in the episode where it really started to unfold for me, and it was one of the funny things. As much as I'm saying it started to feel like a Doom Patrol episode at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, Cliff was being funny, Cliff all episode, but it wasn't just the weirdness of of Dr. Tyme and like the voice that he had, which I thought was perfect just for the weirdness of it. May I add? it was, I thought all the plots really started to pay off here in the back half of the episode. There's stuff with Cyborg that I really liked. There was stuff with Larry that I really liked. Like, I felt like there was lots of good stuff in all the plots in the back half of the episode.
I'd forgotten how consistently Larry's stuff hits emotionally in a way that a lot of the other characters don't. Like, a lot of the other characters have like this really funny stuff. Larry is one of the only characters that really leads into the sad tragedy angle more than the others and plays it for genuine emotion.
Yeah, and it usually pays off really well because he goes to the funeral, he sort of leaves off, he tells everyone what's happened, and he leaves off to go for his son's funeral.
Can we just note, though, again, one of the other funniest moments of the episode comes from Cliff when he tells him that his son's died, and Cliff's like, "Oh, did the chief kill him too?" just the quick snap delivery of it, where no, he's just annoyed, he's just hitting out, just got me good.
So he goes off to the funeral, and of course, he has another son because the son had a brother. I mentioned that. I mentioned that in the obituary last week, and I actually recognize the actor who's playing this old dude here. But he basically says one thing because he sees Larry waits till after the funeral to go up and sort of pay his respects, and the other son kind of comes up behind him and says, "Oh, are you part of his like wacky tinfoil hat group?" Because the son that died has kind of believed in conspiracies and believed that his father might have been a part of something, and it's basically, and we know it's the truth. That's the thing.
Yeah, he had an article on oh god, what was the organization?
Oh, the one that
Niles worked for.
That Niles sent people to the Tyme did with as well.
Yeah, but they had a
normalcy,
like
something about normalcy.
Bureau of Normalcy. That was it. Yeah, they had a clipping about that, so it's like the son was onto something. He wasn't like
and that's one of the jokes is that the other son because he recognizes his father's voice and then realizes that it's him and then goes, "Oh shit, Gary was right, huh?" Like he thought his brother was a crazy man all these years. It's like, huh, Gary was onto something. He's invited to like the gathering afterwards, and he goes, but he doesn't go inside, but he does go into the barn where Gary had all of his like basically his conspiracy like theory
his
stuff.
Conspiracy board.
Yes, and it's kind of it's a sweet moment, and it's like, oh man, like the music in this episode was really hitting me. There was a moment, the music here was really really good, and then there was really good another scene with Cyborg as well. Just where I forgot, Clint Mansell's.
Yeah, I don't know how involved he is in the day-to-day, but obviously he came up with some of the core themes that a lot of the show was kind of extrapolated from. Yeah,
because it's him and someone else, and I'm sure the other one's probably the guy who's running it day-to-day. Or I actually don't remember the name, maybe I would.
Yeah.
But
I know Clint Mansell definitely did the main theme, if nothing else.
Yeah, which is still fantastic, may I add.
Oh, it's so good.
No, that was really sweet, and he has this moment. In fact, the end of the episode is a cliffhanger that kind of plays at the end of Larry's stuff, where he's like trying to hitchhike. He's on his way home, and like a butterfly lands on his thumb.
Yeah, because there'd been a butterfly in the barn as well, and honestly, this surprised me because the way it was, and his son had watched him leave. I thought, oh, it's just going to show his son coming and picking him up during this clip, while he's hitchhiking, and there'll be a moment there, but it doesn't go that way at all.
No. There's lots of butterflies show up, and there's kind of like a vortex is the right word, but there's like a mass of what seems to be butterflies creating a shape, creating a.
Yeah, it feels very ominous.
Yeah, so I mean, it ends in a kind of a what the F moment, but that was Larry stuff. Cyborg stuff. Cyborg, because he bolted last episode, and he's essentially got PTSD, and he goes to like a group meeting, and he sort of walks in the middle of this woman telling her story. And she gets kind of mad at him because A, he was late and you're not supposed to do that, but also B, everyone doesn't feel comfortable because you're Cyborg, because obviously everyone knows who he is. It's like you've literally got a camera in your eye, and this is supposed to be private, no recordings, anything like that. But it becomes him like sort of bonding with this woman afterwards, and they kind of like, talk back and forth, and her mother died as well, but not when, because she's telling a story, and he assumed it's because she's a vet. Oh, it must have been when she was, in combat or whatever. And she's like, no, that was here, that was after. That, why did you assume? Not everything traumatic in my life comes from that one thing that I did. But it all leads up to this scene because they go out for like lunch or whatever. We don't see that scene, but they're kind of bantering afterwards about onion rings and whatever.
You assume it went well.
Yeah, and they seem to be hitting it off. Even just the filmmaking when he first like sort of sees her, it's kind of like slows down a little bit, and there's some synth comes in, and it's got a mood, it's got a tone. And it turns into this sort of weird debate because she's getting mugged because she doesn't want walked home, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll see you next time at meeting. It's ending fairly well, and some young guy comes up and tries to mug her, and he gets into cyborg mode and he's running off to save her. But even though she's got a cane, she just uses the cane to beat the kid down and gets him on the ground. Not overly though. This is the thing. It's very just enough to put him down, just to sort of deal with the situation. Cyborg comes up and goes, "Well, you're kind of a badass. What's going on?" And then Cyborg reveals that he's already called the cops. With his tech, he's already informed the authorities.
On the way, and it's standard procedure for a mugging.
And she's like, no, don't call the cops. If he's in the system, he's never going to get better. And he looks at his records like, well, technically this would be his third chance, not his second chance. We'll give him a third chance then. Give him a sort. And it becomes this debate, and what's so funny about it is they're having this debate about whether or not this kid should be picked up by the police, and oddly timely as well. Given, I mean, maybe it's always timely, and that's the sad part of it, but especially timely in the last few weeks, given everything that's been going on. But what's weird about it is that it becomes this almost sweet moment, how they're debating this between each other. It becomes this kind of romantic bantering, and it's almost funny because it cuts down to the kid's reaction at one point where he's just looking up at these two back and forth, and it's like a tennis match. He's just kind of watching it.
He's just lying there. After a while, they're like, all right, get out of here.
Yeah. So it actually turned into a kind of a sweet scene, and by the end of the scene, I was kind of smiling because it took something that was taking a relatively serious issue, but it turned into them kind of she was challenging him in a way that he doesn't normally get challenged, but he was kind of respecting that for what it was. And this is maybe why he's actually attracted to her, because she calls him out on his bullshit. Cyborg in this show at the very least is pretty self-righteous a lot of the time. He always sees himself as a superhero. He always tries to do the right thing with the Doom Patrol. He always tries to talk them into things.
Look down on the rest of the group a little bit. Not intentionally, but he definitely does.
Yeah. And I feel like this character is going to whip him into some shape, get his head in the right track. Feels good for him. And I actually I didn't know what to expect from this cyborg subplot of him going to therapy or going to this support group, but actually I ended up quite into it by the end of the episode. I think their chemistry did a lot for it.
Oh, that definitely helps a lot, and I think it's impressive that they managed to have a lot of chemistry without showing us too much. It would have been easy for them to show us 2 or 3 minutes of them in the bar, whatever they're doing, getting drinks or lunch, whatever it was, and seeing some of that relationship develop early on. The fact that it felt confident enough to just not even have to show us that. I don't know if they filmed it or not. Maybe they did and decided it was too much later on. But there was clearly enough confidence there that it was like, no, this works. And credit for that, because I think a lot of shows fall into the trap of just overdoing it.
Yeah, very possibly. So we'll swing back round to the main group, who's going after Tyme, and Dr. Tyme takes a liking to Rita a little bit. Knows who she is even. Obviously being an actor.
Seen her movies.
Yeah. Well, he's been through all time periods. That's the thing. Because we even get the glimpse, because when Niles mentions that he sent agents from the bureau after him a couple of times, when the time spell is broken briefly and all the people who are dancing at this disco thing become themselves again, you see 3 agents in suits running for him. You're like, oh, that's the agents that Niles sent. They've been stuck in this time vortex.
And then you've got a bunch of ancient people speaking other languages.
Oh yeah, there's a really funny gag here where oh god, it's like a samurai, I think, at first, and then it's
he gets stabbed through the back.
Yeah, and the person who stabs him is oh god, I don't know, I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know enough about this archetype to tell you who it is exactly. But then Cliff punches them out. It's just kind of funny little gag. But basically, they try and rip off his helmet, thinking that's where the power is, because it's continuum is
continuinium.
Continuinium. I apologize. Is what they're looking for. It came from this meteor. This is why Dr. Tyme has his powers. They try and rip off his head, as does Rita, but it actually turns out to be his brain, and his brain split over the floor. So she ends up trying to fix it by just kind of putting the clock face in his, his literal face is a clock, and she just puts the time back, and it rewinds time.
Yeah, because Jane and Cliff both touch the brain, even though Niles specifically said don't touch the stuff.
And they freeze. It's like time that they're in just goes into a pause or whatever.
Yeah, and so Rita just rewinds it.
Yes. So they end up, he banishes them back when Dr. Tyme comes back to full strength, and then they come back and they have nothing to show for their trip. It was a failure.
Classic Doom Patrol.
Yes, classic Doom Patrol indeed. And that's that. Jane's got a couple of things. Jane's starting to see more of because Jane's on this mission, so it's not until afterwards she gets more of these little beats where she sees some of the Marsha stuff. The version, the character, one of the personalities that used to be in control. Because we only know a lot about her in season 1, or at least we get a lot teased about her in season 1.
We definitely saw her at some point.
Yeah. So very, very curious to see where they go with some of this stuff. Her learning more about herself, and maybe because by the end of the episode, she kind of finally agrees that maybe it is time for a change. Maybe someone else should be in control.
The primary, as they call it.
Yes, I enjoy that Jane still gives Cliff a lot of shit, but there's anytime something else weird happens, or all of a sudden it's like they are like relatives where they're banding together and like bickering and complaining about the thing that whatever the third party thing is. I enjoyed the bickering out, like when he's like, okay, which one of you knows how to roller skate? And she's like, yeah, like, well, you just assume like one of my personalities. Like, yeah, like there's 64 of you, like one of you must know how to roller skate.
It's a reasonable assumption.
So no, I dug that. But yeah, so yeah, and they flat out say that the world will be in peril if Dorothy can't go back into hiding. Maybe what they learn here is that if they actually just like give her a safe haven to stay in, not something that's like hidden like Danny, but more if she just stays with the team and just learns things from each of them and learns how to deal with pain and learns how to deal with maybe the idea of like going through the death of her father and coming out on the other end will actually be something that like makes her strong enough to deal with pain in the future, so she isn't at a risk of unleashing everything on the world.
Because this is it right now. Is she's like, I could make a wish to save you.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, no, never do that. So
no wishes.
It's really setting the stakes up of no, this thing is terrifying.
So no, I dug the episode quite a bit. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit slow to start, but once it got going, like I thought pretty much all the plots were kind of firing on all cylinders, and very intrigued by the ending with Negative Man. Very intrigued.
Yeah, that should be fun. And we've got episode 3 ready and waiting any minute.
We do. So we'll be obviously back with that before episode 4 drops next week. And we should talk about something that we didn't know when we talked about the first episode a little bit, which is that the season's only 9 episodes. It wasn't meant to be 9 episodes. The virus basically cut filming short, so we're ending up with something of a weird scenario here where we've got 9 episodes, and episode 9 now includes some footage that they'd already shot for episode 10 to kind of turn it into some sort of a finale, which I have to admit does not thrill me, any of that wording.
No, the way the showrunner was talking about it, obviously it's his job to be positive about it, right?
Yes.
So grain of salt. He was talking about how they'd 9. I assume it might feel mostly like a mid-season thing in many aspects, and that's why they could get away with it. Because he said they were fortunate that 9 was able to function in the way that it does, and they'd shot like 90% of episode 10 already, but they were like, well, we can't finish it, so we can kind of just use some of this footage into 9. Maybe 9's a bit longer now. I don't know.
Maybe
obviously they haven't got like a time limit on these.
Yeah, I would be surprised if the episode 9 ends up being like 70 minutes long or something like that, just because they wanted to, they didn't want to cut stuff out, but they wanted to put in some of 10.
It's reminiscent of a scenario that we had with the first season of Titans, right, where they got cut short a couple of episodes so they could kind of just shove them at the end, the start of season 2. Whereas this feels like, well, it's not really their fault. They're trying. So if it doesn't work as well as we'd hope, they kind of get a little bit of a pass.
Yeah, but I have multiple worries here. I have worries that this doesn't get renewed and we never see any more, and we end up with this weird ending, that's this weird concoction of something that was not written to be the ending. And then on top of that, if that's the case, then if this gets renewed for season 3, like even before that, like are they still allowed to like do the because it was meant to be 15 episodes? Are they still allowed to do the last 5? Like, assuming 10's written off because they've used footage from it, do they still get to do the last 5? Is that still on order? Or if they get renewed for a season 3, are they only getting renewed for like those 5 episodes plus an extra batch to make it a full season? Like,
I would say that's the case, and I don't think that's a terrible scenario. If that is, I'm gonna say I'm hopeful for a season 3 right now, because obviously HBO Max were interested in pulling this over to their service as well, which I'm taking as a good sign.
Let me put it this way: if I am unsatisfied with what episode 9 is, I will go on record as saying I would have rather have waited another year and got the proper full season than have maybe 9 good episodes early. I'd rather have it with the intended finish a year later.
And I'm sure most of us would, but if this is, I'm assuming it wasn't their choice, the showrunner. This was higher ups, and I would say, if the worst case scenario is okay, we get a season 3 and they don't get to do it's not like 5 episodes plus the next 15. It's just 15. 9's just a shorter season. I'm like, all right, treat it as the way we do when we look back at seasons that have a writer's strike, that have shorter seasons. It's always like, okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to hold it against it too much overall. If the next season's there and good, even if it's just 15 episodes again.
I'm not going to hold it against it, but I'm just saying I would prefer they just delay it however long it takes till you can film the rest of it and give me it properly. So I mean, I'm happy to have it back, but I'm kind of pissed that it's in this weird compromise form. And I mean, you say it's not their fault. I agree, it's not their fault. The fact that this is the big wigs at the studio and not the creators who made this choice is the more worrying aspect, because they're the ones. Because if the creators made this choice to go, you know what, we actually have something here that functions as something of a finale. We can use this, and they can make that choice creatively. If they're being told from higher up, no, you have to make this work, then that's when it starts to feel forced, or it feels like it doesn't work properly. We
won't know for sure until we watch it in about 6 weeks' time.
It makes me pissed to put out the first 3 in 1 week if there's only 9 episodes.
Yeah, that is annoying.
We're already a third through this. Well, I mean, we're not yet. We don't watch the third one, but we will be a third through the season.
Yeah. This is always a problem whenever Hulu do this, right? Because we have 3 episodes, and then by the time we've watched the third, 4 is almost out as well. So you have 4 that feel really quick, and then it's like, oh, I'm almost halfway through the season already, and it's always a kind of a shitty feeling. You're like, oh, I enjoyed this week, and then, oh yeah, it's kind of that's most of it done.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure the episodes are of high quality. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I just wished I would have preferred them wait and give it to us in the original form they intended. Hopefully it doesn't feel too bad with episode 9. But we'll see. So yeah, that's Time Patrol. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show financially, you can do that over at patreon.com/mailfuzztv for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. It would be weird not to mention occasionally on these, we have a DC Comics podcast called Comics from the Multiverse, which we do every week, talking about all the new DC books that come out. Well, I say all. I mean, all the ones we're reading. I mean, we don't put ourselves through every bad book. But there you go. Although Car does love and read Red Hood every month. So
not willingly.
So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?